Nice here. Like many things in Minecraft, the way the game deals with maps and what the player is able to do with them is a bit unique compared to other games.
I was initially just interested in how they worked and how colors were distributed, but ended up going down a bit of a rabbit hole. I found some oddities and issues, and I wanted to talk about them. Some of these bothered me enough that a friend and I actually made a mod to fix them. Let's take a look at maps. Minecraft doesn't have a map screen like most games. You can use mods to have them, but in vanilla, maps are actual items made and held by the player, or placed in item frames, and this actually limits how they can be displayed. Some modern games have maps that are actual 3D versions of the world. Recently, I liked the Death Stranding 2 map that uses these little voxels. Minecraft could have gone this way. Maybe having the map a 3D object you place down, or maybe a block that you could look into. But it would be graphically very taxing to do this. Most games use techniques from physical maps like topo lines. If we keep the topography and remove everything else from the map, we can place a plane at a specific elevation, and where the plane intersects the topography, that's a topo line. If we do that evenly spaced up and down, then project those lines onto a flat page, that's a topo map. The steeper the topography, the closer the lines become. Normally maps have index lines with elevations on them, but even then, it can be hard to understand sometimes. Here is an example from Hawaii. Near the coast is a feature called Diamond Head. If you just looked at the topo lines, it's hard to tell if this is a hill coming up or a crater going into the page. But if you know anything about Hawaii, you can probably guess that it's a volcano. The cool part is that due to the caldera in the middle, it's both a hill and a crater. Combining methods is a common technique used in real maps. This is the Diamond Head elevation model in QGIS. And if you put that under the topo lines, it becomes much easier to understand. The most recent Zelda games use this combo for their maps, giving the higher elevation a lighter color. The Minecraft maps keep a pixelated look, so these topo lines are a bit chunky. And even if we shade the elevation, I don't think it looks great. Another common method for depicting the shape of topography is called hill shaded relief, and it makes it pretty obvious what's going on. Using the program World Painter, I exported the height map from our Minecraft Cherry Mountain, and we can convert that into hill shaded relief too. If this is looking familiar, it's because this is the actual method that Minecraft uses to create its maps. Humans have this expectation for light sources to be up, so usually maps are created with the simulated light source to the top left of the image. If it's on the bottom, there can be this optical illusion called the crater illusion, where a hill can look like a depression or vice versa. We can recreate that effect very easily in a Minecraft map if we have a flat platform and put a half circle sticking up, and then another that's the same size sticking down. The hill is highlighted to the north, but the crater is just the inverse of that. So if we looked at it from the top, they swap their appearance. Since every Minecraft world is unique, it can't pre-generate maps, which would also take up a lot of file space. But they also have to be able to update when the player is changing their world. So Minecraft has to generate its maps on the fly. To keep the impact of this low, Minecraft places the light source directly to the north. This way, for each pixel on the map, the game only needs to check the block at that position, and then the one directly to the north of it. Here's what the actual Minecraft map for our Cherry Mountain looks like, with just the topography. The specific method that Minecraft uses for hill shading allows for 3 colors. If the north block is lower, then it is considered in full sun, and it is the brightest color. If it's the same elevation, it shades the color a little bit. If the north block is higher, then it's in shadow and uses the darkest shade. It doesn't matter how high or low the north block is either, just that it is higher or lower. And the blocks to the side don't matter. So something like this will all be the same color, except for the north edge. This is why you see those crazy looking map art pieces. You can make map art that is flat, but you are reducing your possible colors by a third. This map looks pretty good, but you can see these abrupt changes in the whites of Hornet's face and over in the oranges and reds. If you keep raising or lowering the north block, you can maintain a specific shade, and it triples the number of available colors, allowing for more detailed art. When I was making this, Silksong had just come out, and it was perfect for this because Minecraft maps don't have very many available reds or whites. Which brings us to the topic of colors. As of 1.21.8, there are 60 base map colors and 1 for transparency. With ramps, you can triple this. And technically there is a 4th color, but it's only accessible through editing the map file, and we'll talk about that later. Right now they are organized by index number, which has zero use to me if I'm trying to use it as a palette. Instead, let's start with black and end with white and minimize the difference between colors. Now this is something that I can make sense of. The wiki only had the index order, so I have updated the map item format page to include this as well. Some people might not know this, but the color that's actually produced on the map is not related to the block texture in any way. You can change textures with a resource pack, and the map remains the same. Instead, the map gets its color from a table of block IDs, and you end up with things like this. All of these blocks produce the sand color on the map. I began looking at the blocks that make each map color. All of these blocks produce the dirt color. And when I say sand or dirt, it's not a specific block I'm talking about. Besides the numerical index, all the map colors have a word describing them, and I'll be using that for most of the episode. Most of the dirt, granite, and jungle wood are all close to the same color, so that makes sense. But then mud bricks are a different color, even though they are closer in color to packed mud than packed mud is to the other browns. The map color for the interior mushroom texture is the same as the exterior mushroom texture, even though the game can change color based on block properties, because jungle logs with its bark facing up is a different brown. If you strip it, then it goes back to the dirt color. But then there are the wood blocks. Bark or no bark, they're both dirt colored. This isn't even consistent with the rest of the wood either. The older wood follows the same plan, with stripped and unstripped wood having the same base color. Then acacia and dark oak were added. Dark oak bark and interior wood have similar colors, so they are both the same map color. But for acacia, it almost looks like they fixed the issue, because wood is a different color, but the logs are stone color and the wood is gray color, even though they use the same texture file. Then the nether trees got added, and the problem swaps. Now horizontal logs are the same as the base color, but all the wood is its own color. Mangrove went back to the original issue, and bamboo is different because it doesn't have a wood block, but the horizontal block is in plant color, even though all sides of the unstripped block are actually green. And finally, when cherry and pale oak were added, they did it right. Cherry actually has 3 colors, but that's fine because the sides versus the ends of the strip logs are actually different colors, which is great. You have more variety then. A lot of other blocks get placed in the same group as oak. For some reason, all of the workstations are that color, even though they are clearly made of other wood materials. The smithing table makes the least sense. Dyed items are mostly put into their specific named color group, like orange or purple, except for banners, which are in oak, and the unglazed terracotta, which get their own groups. I was surprised that the dyed panes are transparent since a single candle shows up on the map, but many other similar sized items or even larger ones are also in the transparent group. Being able to see your rail lines on a map would be really cool. White is a strange one because white candles are placed into the wool group. But you know what's not in the wool color? Any of the wools. And this is definitely because of the old wool textures. But I have no idea how white candles ended up there. But besides that, all the dyed items use their colors. But flowers that produce a lot of those dyes are just in the plant color. Except for sea pickles, they're in the green color, which is odd because they produce lime dye. Those are most of the types of irregularities, but many of the color groups don't make sense if you look at the texture of the blocks that are in them. All of these top blocks are in the green color group. I know the chain command block is a creative item and it's not something most people are going to use for map art, but its color is just so different from the dried kelp block. Most of them are nowhere near the same color green they make on the map, and this is made worse by lime and green terracotta having their own map colors, which are closer to the map green than several of the blocks in the green group. To see this better and talk about the rest of the issues, we need to look at everything in a color space. And I happen to have a world just for that. This is the RGB color space, displaying the range of colors in the sRGB gamut. We can place some Minecraft blocks arranged by their average color, and since we are dealing with maps, we only care about their top texture. Next, we can load the base map colors as these circles. And just to show you how crazy the color and block associations are, I'll draw a line from each block to the color it produces on the map. I feel like a conspiracy theorist looking at this mess. To keep clutter down, I'm only showing unique textures, so planks but not slabs or fences, and I'm not showing any of the plant blocks here. I'll talk about them later. To be 100% correct, we should be doing all of this in another color space like OK Lab, but these bigger issues are just fine to talk about in RGB, and the game does its math in straight up sRGB. But anywhere I need to do math, I'm doing it in OK Lab. If you don't know what any of those words that came out of my mouth mean, I do have several videos talking about color theory. Just know that the blocks are placed based on their colors, so similar colors are close together and different ones are farther apart. Again, I'm not going to go over every issue here, just focus on a few. So I'll just show the parts I'm talking about. To start, let's look at those greens. Besides the green glass, the closest block to the color is actually the lime terracotta, which has its own color. Some of these other blocks are close, but the dried kelp is way down there, and the end portal is over here, and then the chain command block is all the way up there, right next to lichen. There are many other examples of groups that are just way too spread out. This one is the sand group from earlier. Some map colors are right next to each other, like snow and quartz here. We can quantify the difference between two colors just by measuring the distance between them, and it is written as delta E. In normalized OKLab, a delta E of 0 is the same color. The farthest two colors can be is 1. A color difference of 0.01 to 0.02 is barely noticeable. Like, you need to have both colors right next to each other to see the difference. Anything greater than 0.1 is very different. Snow and quartz have a value of 0.012, or the very bottom of barely noticeable. There are several other close colors like these pinks and grays, but these are just the base colors. If you added the two shades, then 37 pairs are closer than 0.02, and 6 are closer than 0.01. The closest being purple terracotta shade 1 and magenta terracotta shade 2 at 0.004, which is literally two RGB values from each other, basically the same color. Here is snow and quartz on the map along with several of the closest colors, and I can barely tell the difference without YouTube compression. But nice, the actual blocks are very close in color. What's wrong with the map colors being close? Great question, beautiful viewer. This is a problem because it's wasting a color that could be something different. The current map system has a limited total number of colors it can support, and it's almost full. Similar blocks should be in the same groups, or those close groups should be spread apart so there's fewer overlaps. And this isn't even talking about the hidden fourth shade, which would make things even more complicated. Let's look at metal. The iron block is literally in the cluster of snow color blocks, but it is part of the metal color, which is down here. We pass through another map color before we get to it, and if we keep going to the anvil and cauldron, which are in the same group, there are 5 other base map colors within the grouping of metal blocks. If you consider the shades, there are many, many overlaps of colors in these neutral tones. The diamond group has one of my favorite oddities. It contains diamonds and prismarine bricks, but not prismarine, which seems okay since prismarine is animated and it goes through a green and blue phase. But for some reason, it also includes the conduit and dark prismarine. Anyone that has built a nice dark prismarine roof only to have it look like this knows my pain. Some might think this is because older blocks were assigned based on groups of materials and not just block color. But there are new examples of this as well. Calcite is relatively new, but it got added into white terracotta, which is pink. There are pink carbonate minerals though. Mojang, DM me, let's talk. The test block was just added, and it has 4 different states that are blue, purple, green, and orange. But it was placed into light gray. I thought it might have been lumped together with the test instance block, which is a different block because it's gray, but it actually got placed in the transparent map color group. So this isn't just another issue of ignoring properties either. Many newer blocks get added to map colors that are much darker than them. Cherry has these 3 colors like we said, but there is no slightly darker pink, so stripped logs got added to red terracotta. Tuff becomes this dark brown, and dripstone is right next to the terracotta color, but it also has a brown map color. Believe it or not, there's actually a ton more to talk about on the color theory side, but for now, I want to focus on how to make things better. I know most people will use an external tool if they are serious about making map art, but Mojang has made efforts to make things more intuitive and not having to rely on a wiki or other outside sources to know how to play the game. When you place a block down, the map color should make some sense. The map system was added in beta, and while they have added new colors over the years, they haven't changed any of the old ones, even though some of the block textures have. People shouldn't need to know things from 10 years ago to learn why something is the way it is now. Fixing it is more involved than just assigning blocks to the closest color. This does make some more sense, but it doesn't really fix many of the issues. Mojang is very reluctant to change existing things because it might affect people's maps that they have been making for years, but they are almost at a limit for what they can do with the current system. Minecraft uses a completely bizarre method to store and display maps. The base map colors here are the only colors in the map code. Every time the game needs to write or display a pixel on a map, it recalculates its shade. The map files store every pixel as a byte, an 8-digit binary number. I'm using MBT Explorer to read a map file, and these are the values in hex. This one is for Lichen, which is index number 61, but the value here is F6. And that's this map here. F6 in hex is 246 in decimal, or this number in binary. Minecraft splits this number in two. The 6 on the left give it the index number, and the 2 on the right tell it the shade. So if we count up from 244, the index number won't change until we get to 248. For each pixel, it reads the value, gets the index number, reads the RGB values for that color, and then reads the shade. For shade 0, it divides by 255 and then multiplies by 180 to get the darkest usable shade. If it's shade 1, it multiplies by 220, and the lightest shade divides by 255 and then multiplies by 255 just to get back to the original number. The only reason why we have the 4th unusable shade is because they had an extra value until the index number changed. They did add some code to multiply by 135 and make the darkest shade, but no way to access it in the game. If you edit the map file like I did, the game has no issues displaying it. Because we are multiplying by a fraction, the color difference between brighter shades is large, but very small for darker colors. The color difference between the base color and the darkest shade of snow is 0.23, but for black, it's only 0.036. It is impossible to have evenly spaced out colors, including the shades, with the current system, which is one of the reasons why it should be redone. The other reason is that it's nearly full. The number system they are using only has 2 more spaces for color before it would need to be changed anyway. Even though the system supports 255 colors, the 4th shade is unusable, and the transparent color still takes up 4 spaces. So really, it's 189 colors. If they just got rid of recalculating the shades for every pixel and just had a table of pre-calculated colors and appropriately spaced shades, we could actually have 255 colors on a map and probably reduce computation time. But even without changing the map system entirely, there are still improvements to be had. So let's head back to the other world for a bit and discuss how to make things better. And I can show you with the mod my friend Gamma and I made. The mod is called Improved Map Colors, and it basically lets you do 2 things. Assign any block or block state to any map color, and or change any of the 61 colors to any hex RGB value. First thing I would do is fix the issues with orientation. All of the wood should behave the same and make sense with their bark. This just seems like an actual mistake. And then I would reassign all their workstations to the correct base color. Same thing for other orientations like pistons and mushrooms. Mushrooms and several other plants produce the colors you would expect, so flowers should be the color of the dyes they produce. I'm not sure why this was left out in the first place. I can think maybe it was to keep down the clutter on the map, but then there is tall and short grass, which just adds all this noise. Personally, I would add short grass to the transparent group to cut down on the clutter in some areas, and the flowers would add some more color to others. Leaf litter and resin clumps are their colors on the vanilla map, but wildflowers and pink petals are just in plant. I would add them to other colors. I think this looks so much more pleasant, especially when compared to vanilla. The cool part is that these changes really wouldn't affect anyone's maps, especially if they had them locked, because the base colors aren't changing. Say, if you had a dark prismarine tower, you could change that block to an actual green color, lock the map, then change the block back. I could also see this being useful if you're doing map art in survival. Use some cheap block instead of an expensive one, set it to the color you need, make the map, and then change it back. The other part of this mod allows you to adjust the base map colors. So you could maybe move those close colors further apart and try to get some more variety, but I'm going to show you something else. I made some presets that come in the mod. I converted all the colors into grayscale. I did some linear transformation to shift all the colors to sepia. And just for fun, there's inverted, and because I wanted it, Game Boy. I can't wait to play Silksong Game Boy Edition. I don't want to come off as complaining about Mojang. This was a cool system that was implemented years ago, and it's grown beyond what it was meant for. Nobody expected people to make map art, but here we are. I was mostly just interested in learning how the system worked, and what the actual color distribution looked like, and I hope you found it interesting. Gamma had the idea for the mod while I was already working on the episode. We were chatting about how some of the vanilla code worked, and thought it would be a neat tool that some people would use. Thanks again to Gamma for doing all that work and actually getting all the code for me to look at. And I would also like to thank Conyer for helping me with the nice wand. And I want to give thanks to the loosest of gooses for chatting with me about colors, and Thomas from my Discord for chatting about some algorithms. I ended up not using the things we talked about, but it's all part of the process, and I appreciate your time. I hope you have a nice day, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Oh, and if you add grass, dirt, stone, and a bunch of other stuff to the transparent layer, then edit ore to a different color, you can kind of see through a bunch of things. Don't tell anybody.